Well, Stephanie, welcome to the Twinkle Star Dance podcast. Can you share your dance journey and what ultimately inspired you to open the Duval Dance and Music Academy?
So I started dance at the age of 2. Like many studio owners started so young. And I just fell in love with it from day one. I loved everything about going to class, putting the leotard on, learning the recitals, my teachers, the friends that I made, and like learning new styles from year to year. So I was hooked from the very beginning, and it was just something that I always wanted to go to. I never wanted to not go to dance. I tried other activities and they didn't stick. So dance became a passion at a very, very young age. In second grade, I started telling people I was going to own a studio one day. And I said it always, I'm going to own a studio one day. That's what I want to do when I grow up. The opportunity was presented to me my senior year in college to buy the school that I own now. And I jumped at that opportunity. I said yes. I didn't think twice. I purchased it right when I graduated college. And fortunately, my parents helped me along the way. It was a big undertaking at a young age, but I did it. And I'm so glad I did because my dream came true and I've learned so much along the way.
I know we were chatting at the beginning of the call about how studio owners are kind of a resilient and special bunch. And I think knowing that from a young age that you wanted to open a studio probably was that like driving factor for you to take that leap at such an early age. But were there any like gaps or needs that you saw in your community? I mean, obviously you purchased an existing studio, so maybe any obstacles that you had to overcome in that transition or something like that?
Absolutely. So the school at the time was considered more of a recreational fun place, and I had a different vision. I wanted it to be more of a professional space for children to not only have fun when they came to class, but to learn proper technique. And if they wanted to go on and dance in college or, become professional dancers or teachers, I wanted to make sure that was a space for them where they could train. And if that wasn't something they wanted to do, I just wanted to also make sure we had that pathway for the children who just wanted to have fun. They wanted to come to class, feel supported, feel part of a community, and go home and be happy about taking dance and, what they're learning and how it helps them grow as individuals. So it took a long time to get to that point, but I was very consistent in what my vision was. I had a really wonderful core group of preteens who wanted that as well. So they were certainly my first group that I brought to a dance competition, and I was like, all right, my vision is happening. It's all coming together. And from there on out, it evolved through the years.
Yeah, and I want to go back to right out of college, taking the leap to owning your studio. Congratulations on that. I just would like to say, because I'm assuming you were about 22-ish around that age. And sometimes we think, oh, 22 is still very young, and it is as we look back. But taking that kind of risk, taking that leap is very, how do I say the word? It's like you have the personality of like somebody who was going to achieve great things because you saw an opportunity and you took it, and you probably weren't you probably had no idea what you were getting yourself into, but it was that love or the passion that you had. Like you said, you never not wanted to go to dance, that led you on that way. And you're probably so glad you did it young. And you're so glad you started it, in, I don't know what year that was, but several years ago versus like waiting and sort of seeing what it is that you really wanted. You just really jumped at that. So I just want to point that out for any young people listening and thinking, oh, maybe I want to open a dance studio, but I'm kind of scared. Maybe I should wait. I always feel like I always tell Amanda, because she's opening the studio, there's no other option but to succeed. Once you take the leap, you are going to swim and it's going to be fine. But looking back, is there a particular moment when you realized you were ready to become a studio owner? Maybe it is that you took that leap, but was there a particular moment that maybe once you've owned it, like going, okay, I think I'm good at this? Like, was there something where the light went off for you or on? Sorry.
I don't know if there was one moment exactly, but I just loved everything about it. I loved the planning and the teaching and connecting with families and just watching the growth and just the craziness of it all. Like I thoroughly enjoyed doing several different things and planning for the recitals. And I was like, this is for me. I could never be someone that would be able to sit in an office and have one task. Like I just loved every aspect of it. I mean, from, when the youngest ones came in to teaching that first class to planning the recitals and the costumes. It just was like just so much fun. And I worked a lot of hours, a lot of long hours for many years because I could. I was in a different stage in my life. And I never said, this is too much. I always like enjoyed it. I enjoy being at the studio for 12 hours a day. And it was like normal for me. I'd say as the school grew, it was accomplishment after accomplishment. And I was like, oh, wow, like I've grown this program so much and I've seen these kids just flourish and just, it was beyond like what I even anticipated it to be. I think it was definitely a multitude of things that would get me to where I am today.
And I think one of the things I'm hearing from you is that you enjoy the process. And like, how lucky are we that we get to do that every day? We get to do something where, like you're saying, there's all these different projects and you're teaching classes, you're now training teachers, managing, schedules, you're interacting with parents. And sometimes they're coming to you with very personal things. But I think you kind of hit the nail on the head of like, that's why we get into owning a studio, is because we enjoy the process. And I feel like there is, a lot of like research and data coming out that's why you're successful, is because you do enjoy the work. It's the small, consistent little parts of the process that add up to why you've been able to be successful. So I think just want to point that out for anyone that's listening, because I think sometimes you think like, oh, I'm going to buy a studio. It's like winning the lotto and it's just going to be successful and it's wonderful. But it really is like that 9 to 5 grind, and then getting in your car at 3:30 and getting gas and getting to the studio and teaching your class and, showing up whatever happened to you that day and saying like, yes, Susie got her shuffle today in class. That I'm celebrating that small win. And I think it's really important to remember that at like the core of what we're doing. But I know you have dance as part of your studio, but you also offer music and recital performances. You have a performing company and a competition team. So it's multifaceted. What kinds of systems or processes have been effective to help you keep that process moving along?
So like I said, I would work many hours a day, and I got to a point where I was like, okay, I can't do this all anymore. Like it's not sustainable. And I wanted the school to continue to grow and flourish and be able to provide more for the community. When I hired my first teacher, I was like, okay, delegated, here's the classes you're going to teach. And then it just kind of grew from there. It was hiring the right people, making sure the interview process was very thorough, having them come and teach a class. Like, are you a good fit? Do you fit with our culture? And going through this like expansive interview process was really important for me, because I wanted to make sure that whoever was coming in had the same vision as myself, and like how a class should be taught, what children should be feeling while they're in the studio, how they should feel when they leave the studio, the connection with the families. And besides that, then hiring people to work in the office. So there had to be a lot of systems put in place, because I was doing it all. I was doing all the systems, but it was just me. So I really needed to make sure that I was like sharing, okay, here is how you do this. Here is how you register a student. Like just something simple, but at the same time taking that off my plate. So with all of the events that we have throughout the year, just in studio, we perform in the community. You mentioned we do compete. So we have a large performance company. We have the music program. It just, there's a lot happening. There's always something. And then we do the winter recital, the Dancing Holiday Magic Show, and also the Nutcracker Suite. And of course, our spring recitals. So having the right people in place to help with event planning, classroom planning, communicating with the parents, just making sure everyone understands what's happening, that they've read their handbook, and just making sure someone is available at the front desk to answer questions, especially if they're new families and they're like, this seems like a lot. We've got all the information, but we just want to make sure that we understand it and we're doing things correctly. And we want to make sure that they understand understand it. So I think systemizing is major. Anyone is to grow and wants to expand their offerings, and just making sure you have the right people in place, helping them with the training process and communicating with them. And if you find that they're not the right fit, then it's okay. It's okay to move on and have somebody else come in your door. And I think that's another part of the journey, is just like giving people a chance, but knowing that it might not be permanent. People will come and go in your business, and it's okay knowing that like you got to keep moving forward, and maybe you have to jump in here and there and do a few extra things till you find somebody else to come and take their place, but it all works out. One other thing that I have done in the past couple of years that has worked out well for my staff, and that they really appreciate. Some of them have multiple roles, and they're really enjoying that. And it also gives them more of a sense of being part of the business and feeling like they have a say, and they're not coming in just to teach a class, but they're helping with planning. They're able to give their insight. It also takes a lot off of my plate too, having someone who is already familiar with the dance world and giving them a separate task outside of teaching. It seems easier for them to take it on and to train them. So I find that has worked really well with my staff.
Yeah, that's great. You figured out that if they feel like they matter, if they feel valued, and a lot of it is sometimes they have opinions or insights that they want to give. And initially you might think, I'm too busy to hear this, I have a plan. But it is important because, like you said, you've expanded their roles. And as you expand their roles, they're more bought in. They're more connected to what you're doing. And let's face it, our teachers are everything for us. And the longer they stay, the more we grow. Because, you know, if they've got Miss Amanda for 2 years, if Miss Amanda moves on, maybe I don't want to dance anymore. So those are really important points that you just made, and very, very smart, and those are the things we learn over time too. And I like what you said about not everything is permanent. Well, nothing's permanent, but I remember thinking, okay, this is my staff, forever. Obviously it wasn't, because everyone's on their own path. It's not that some people are good or bad or anything. It's just, do they fit for that moment? Is what they want from their life aligned with what we want at our studio at the same time? And I like what you said about, if it doesn't align, it's okay to let them go, because there'll be something better for them. And to maybe make that change quicker than waiting and trying to force something that isn't working. So it sounds like your success is really closely connected to all the systems, and you being able to step out and see from a 360-degree view of what's going on. Sometimes we're so far in it and we're doing all the tasks, it's very hard to manage. So congratulations on all that. I would like to ask you, you've been one of our long-standing, beloved Twinkle Star subscribers, but we wanted to talk to you, and we really appreciate you being a part of our community. How has the Twinkle Star Dance program influenced your studio and your preschool program as a whole?
So I'm just going to even back up to when I first became a Twinkle Star subscriber. I had just moved into a larger space, and I wanted to expand our offerings. We had another room now that, our previous space, we had been like, we outgrew it. So I was like, okay, we want to add more preschool classes. We want to add more of our younger children division classes, but I can't teach them all. I can't be in both rooms at the same time. So how am I going to do this? The postcard showed up, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to give this a chance. So myself and one of my other teachers, who was a former student of mine, I said, let's go. We're going to Philadelphia. We're going to this conference, and we're going to go check it out. And she was like, all right, let's do it. I was like, this is perfect. After I learned about it, and I was like, this is exactly what I need, because I can't duplicate myself, but having the training videos, having the curriculum, I was like, somebody else can do this. They can do what I'm doing. This is great. We can train together on this. So we put it in place. And at the time, it was just myself and the other instructor using it. And as the time, as the years went on, now I have about 70% of my staff using the Twinkle Star program. But what I love most about it, and what has helped through the years, is just the structure, the fun that it brings into the classroom, the curriculum. It's it's amazing what they're learning and also having fun at the same time. Like they don't really, and I tell the parents this, like they're learning proper technique. They don't realize they're learning proper technique, but the beauty of the program is that what I'm teaching in my class and someone else is teaching in their class, they're learning the same thing. So if they are to go to another class or next year when they move on to the next level, they've all learned the same thing. You know, the warm-ups, the across the floor, the center combinations. We also use the choreography for our winter recitals and for our spring recitals. So, and another wonderful thing, just to touch on the choreography, we're able to give multiple classes the same routine. You know, if we have a dancer who needs to be in another show because their sibling is in the other show, they can easily swap over and they've already learned it in their class. It's so wonderful because I can step away and I know that like these kids are learning what they're supposed to be learning. And I don't have to oversee it. I'm very well connected with the teachers and just making sure they understand everything, that we have our monthly meetings. We talk about, you know, filling out the passport books. Those are also a really fun thing too, that, you know, the parents enjoy seeing those and the progress of the children. But it has built our program up so much, especially the preschoolers, because the parents are seeing the progress. I think that's huge too, is just really seeing that they're not coming in and just like running around and just having fun for an hour. They're seeing how much their children have grown and the confidence. The confidence is huge, especially as kids are developing and they go into grade school and they're affected by others. Just being in a place where they're boosted, they're supported is major, and it helps shape them at such a young age. So the Twinkle Star program you've created is really focused on that as well. It's just been amazing for us. I share it with all other studio owners who are looking to grow their preschool programs, or they were in the position I was in. I proudly share it and I say, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to get for your school. So I think that it's just wonderful.
I love what you're saying about, well, first of all, I think it's amazing that you came to the event, you saw the program, and similar to, you know, when you bought your studio, you weren't like, okay, I'm going to mull this over for a year and think about it. Like, I think like Tiffany said at the beginning, one of the reasons that you are so successful is because you make those quick decisions and you're like, this is what I need. I'm getting it. You implement it at your studio. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but could you share a little bit of like what your numbers were before? You know, obviously you and your other teacher are teaching majority of your preschool classes and your, you know, school age classes. But then once you did start implementing, you know, the Twinkle Babies and Twinkle Stars, what did your numbers look like as you expanded into the 2 rooms?
Well, I don't remember the number exactly. It was 11 years ago.
Yeah.
The classes all filled. I can say that. And we did add more classes. We added morning classes that we didn't have before. We added evening classes. Another thing too, I want to say that, Amanda, I can attribute this to you, just like adding evening classes. These were ideas I got from you, and Sunday classes. That has been huge for us. We have 2 rooms going on Sundays with ages 2 to 7 right now. The Sundays are full and our evening classes are full. Another thing I want to just mention, it's not just the curriculum. There's so much advice that I've taken from yourself and from Tiffany through the years and implemented it. And it's just been a huge success for us. And I think if you have a vision and you see it through and you're patient, patience is so huge in this business that like, you can't expect things to happen overnight. You have to put the work in and you have to trust and believe in it and know that it is going to happen. So just keep working hard and believing in it and sharing it with everyone. And if you're confident in it, your teachers are going to be confident in it. The families are going to start to see that, and they're going to see the progress. They're going to see how much their children are growing too. I don't have an exact number to answer it, but I can tell you it has grown so much.
Wow, that's amazing. Your Sundays having 2 rooms running. Well, and by the way, Stephanie, like you've like Amanda said, you jumped in right after college and then you saw this thing and said, let's go. So it's about you making quick decisions and then having patience to see it through, and also operationally being able to say, okay, this is going to take a minute for everyone to be on the same page. And for me to, you're not selling the program to your teachers, but you're allowing them to understand the value of it. There might be someone going, well, I have my own class, you know, that whole thing. And we hear that that. But in the end, over time, they will see the benefit and how it makes their teaching, how it makes it easier and makes them a better teacher. I'm just like struck at what a great leader you are to be able to just make quick decisions, make decisive decisions. And that's even a thing. It's true. Like a lot of times, all we do every day is make decisions, right? It's like deciding on the costumes and deciding what do we charge. And it's a lot sometimes. And sometimes people get so stuck in the fear, what if I choose the wrong thing? Or what if it doesn't work? Or what if it does take a long time to get a curriculum up and running? Or what if it costs an extra $99 a month? Whatever those things are. But I think a strong leader like you dives in and just does it. And then I like what you said about patience, because sometimes we want something to be fixed right now. And also what I heard and warms my heart is about so many things. It makes me feel so good that we've created something that can benefit you and your dancers and your teachers, is that you wanted all of your teachers on that same page. If a teacher leaves, does a 3-year-old just start over again with Miss Susie because she's doing her own class? And you weren't able to expand if you were doing it all yourself. At first, it was probably a lot of fun. And then you're thinking, actually, I didn't get into this to teach all the classes, and I can't be in 2 places at one time, right? Can we talk a little bit about teacher training and hiring? So can you speak specifically about how you did train your staff to ensure alignment with your studio values and expectations and the curriculum? Because sometimes if you adopt something new, you're like, okay, here's everything, but where do I start? So just talk a little bit about how you implemented the program with your teachers.
So I did start very, small. Like I said, it was just myself and one other teacher. I think as studio owners, we can recognize who will take the program and who will really put the time and effort into it to understand it and to make sure they're teaching it as they've learned it, and having not only, the tools from the videos, but making sure they're really like empowering the personality that goes with being a preschool teacher, right? You're smiling. Everything is 200%. It's not 100%. Everything is big. So I think for me, I was very conscious of who I chose to start learning the program. As we grew, and my teachers who had stayed with me and they saw the success with the program, I was like, okay, I think you're ready to jump in and start teaching some of these classes. And I should say too, we started with just the Twinkle Star, and then we eventually got the Show Stars. So we weren't doing it, in our ages 7 and up classes. It was just basically our 2-year-olds through our kindergartners, first grade in the very beginning, mainly kindergartners. So as far as training, making sure they understand how to use the videos, the notes, the monthly lesson plans. And I also think too, you have to remind them, hey, remember, we're doing this month. Don't forget to fill out your passport books. Also, having them connect with the parents at the end of class, maybe taking like a minute at the very end and just coming out and talking to them. Oh, today we worked on this and they all did such a great job. Or they had so much fun. We did this new Just for Fun dance and it was awesome. And we're just so proud of them. They accomplished this today and we've been working on it the past 3 months. So I think that as long as you're providing to your staff the expectations, what do you expect of them? It's not just in the classroom, it's outside of the classroom. It evolves. More teachers they want to be part of it. They want to have the curriculum. As far as hiring new teachers, and if it's particularly for the younger age division, I'm very upfront when they come in for their interview. Here, we use this program. Are you okay with training with the program? Do you have the time? Do you have the time to learn the choreography and the lesson plans? Like, I'm very clear with them as to what's going to be expected and make sure that they're the right fit. I don't want to just throw it at anyone because I know that it does take time to plan, takes time to memorize, and you want to make sure that they're willing to do that. They're willing to put the work in so they see the success in the classroom and then they see the benefits for themselves as teachers, because they're learning as well, right? It's not just them taking the curriculum and teaching the younger ones. They're learning a lot from it too. So that's really important to me, just to be upfront with them. And then, of course, with teachers, I'm looking for someone who's professional and who's committed, reliable, friendly, warm and bubbly, and wants to grow with the school and not just be there for a year or think of it as just like, oh, I teach dance on the side. We want them to be connected, really just be part of our dance family.
And I love what you're saying about expectations. It's almost like a two-layered approach. And I think the way that Tiffany constructed the curriculum in itself and then how she kind of created the training method for the teachers is because she has had such high expectations of what those kids can learn in the class. And then also for the teacher, what that class needs to look like. And I think that's one of the great things about teaching the program. Obviously, having grown up in Tiffany's studio and taken her classes, she's not going to let you get away with anything in the class. And so but I appreciate that. It served me so well in my life. And so I think, you see that in the curriculum where it's not just like for a 3-year-old class, oh, they're going to come in and they're only 3. And so we're going to do X, Y, and Z today. And then they have a scarf and it's freeze dance. It's like, no, they're going to learn something. They're going to know, what their tap scale, ballet scale, jazz scale are for the month. They know what the theme is for the month. We're going to show the parents the value of what they're getting in that. But then you're also able to take that. And then when you are hiring and training teachers, say, this is my expectation for you as a teacher. So rather than, someone coming in and being like, this is my class, this is what I do, you're able to say, this is the standard that we have at our school and you have to meet it. And I think it's also from a teaching perspective, just reflecting on, as I've taught these classes, it's really freeing as a teacher to be able to know what the expectation is and what you need to do to meet it. And like you're saying, now you can focus on not the construction of the class, like what does it look from, how does it look from X to Y to Z, but how do I deliver this class? For me, I was always like, how do I exceed what I'm supposed to be doing? If I'm supposed to have 12 kids in this class, I have 14 kids in this class, that's just my personality. And so like you're saying, you have to step out and say, this is what your child learned today, make eye contact with the parents in the lobby. And sometimes it is hard because they're all either up at the window or looking at their phone or chatting in the corner. But I think those little moments of human interaction between, shoe change or at the end of class really do add up. And I think that's such a little like piece of gold that you're sharing, because I think like you're saying, people will have the curriculum, they'll be implementing it. And then, they're reaching out to me, it's not working and I don't have any preschoolers. And part of it is, okay, well, when are you offering your class days and times and that sort of thing? I know I was talking with a studio owner yesterday and she's like, our preschool numbers have dwindled. And I'm like, let's pull your schedule up. And she has a Friday Twinkle class and that's it. And I'm like, well, there's no classes for them to enroll in. So I don't know. Can you share a little bit about how you've scheduled your classes so that sometimes it's this magic formula of like, oh, I have this 3-year-old class that's working at 5 o'clock. And then, how does that look for you when you're scheduling your multiple rooms and that sort of thing?
So I have found that something we started doing a few years back was surveying the parents before we put the schedule together. So if you can do this 2 months before, so like the start of the year is always nice. Everyone's gotten through the holidays and they've kind of moment. Send out a survey and, make it for each age group. Okay. So what days and times work best for you? Does this time slot, and give them like a bracket. Does this time slot work? Have them check things off and leave a comment section. Is there anything else that you can share with us? And just see what you get back. And if you see, oh, this Tuesday, 5:30 is really popular. A lot of the parents of our 3-year-olds, soon to be 4-year-olds want this class. Okay, great. Then that goes on the schedule. And I have to say, like, there are certain classes that we just know from year to year. They always fill, they always work. But it's really, really important not only to just survey your parents, but talk to them. You don't have to just send the email. Talk to them. Say, hey, we're so excited. We're going to be putting our new schedule out, but we want to make sure this works for you. We want to make sure that the days and times, we're going to do the best we can. We can't make it perfect necessarily for everyone's schedule, but we want to do the best we can to satisfy what your next year looks like. And I think it's just really important to also make sure that you're looking at, when does school end? How about your local preschools? Can they do a morning class if they're in afternoon preschool, or vice versa? Some kids are in daycare all day long. That's why you have to have these evening classes, because They want to leave the weekends available for family time. Some people love weekend classes. They like that early morning. And then we found that because due to sports on Saturdays that are very popular in our area, the Sundays have been great because there really aren't any sports on Sundays. So I think it's so important to do your research ahead of time and not just assume. I can say in my early years, I did not do that. I just kind of went off of what I thought would work, and it didn't always work. So you have to put the time in, because then the schedule is hard enough to create. So just putting the time in, doing it early, and then you can make the tweaks ahead of time. If you're like, oh, I thought 5 o'clock was great. Nope, these people need 5:30. Planning is huge in every aspect of our business.
Wow, that's really important what you said. And the whole survey thing can probably make studio owners a little nervous when you send out a survey, because you think you're inviting like critiques, giving them idea, like what time works for you. And I guess I could ask, but I could also assume that this changes from year to year. Right? It's not the same as it used to be. I remember a time before 2008, because 2008 was the Great Recession, when morning classes were packed. And I can deduce from that potentially there was only one person working in the household and somebody was home to take the dancer to class. And then after 2008, it's been much more difficult. You can get mornings going, but it takes a little bit more effort. But as you said, even year to year, like you said, I thought 5 o'clock was good, but now 5:30 is good. And we're finding that 6:15 is great for twinkle babies. Never, ever would I have thought that. But a lot of times we just kind of go on repeat, and we might even be thinking of strategies and things that were like in year 2000, like it seems like the olden days, when we used to do mailings and things. So I love what you're saying about talk to your parents and communicate in a way to just find out what works for them and stay connected to what's happening in your community. Because like, as you said, Amanda, if somebody says, I don't have any preschoolers, when we look and we say, well, you don't have any classes that they would take. And another thing that could happen, right, Stephanie, is that you put a class on and it doesn't fill, so you just take it off right away, instead of leaving it there and letting them plant the seed so it can get going. And I love the Sundays, because your studio, we pay rent on your studio 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And so trying to maximize that time will really help. You're so wise, Stephanie. You know so many things. And for all of our listeners, what is one, or it doesn't have to just be one, it could be a few pieces of guidance that you'd share with teachers or studio owners who want to make a lasting impact? Truly, what this is legacy. And what we do is so far beyond that. If you've owned a studio longer than 10, 15 years, you start to feel that. And your energy might be a little less than it was at the beginning. And I think you need that energy. You need the starter energy. Like Amanda, your energy to start is what you need. This morning, she had to run out and do a key thing at her studio that she's opening. She needs that energy. I don't want to have to do that anymore. But as we evolve, we have different types. We can see a potential legacy or impact of what we've done as a whole. So just share a little bit about guidance for somebody that might be in that new energy, or maybe they're in that 7-year part where they're like, ooh, this seems too pretty hard. Is it going to get better? So I'd love to hear what you have to say about that.
I think having clear expectations for yourself and giving yourself grace on top of that, and knowing that you can't do everything on your own, and it's okay, even though you think you can. It's okay to delegate, because sometimes when you do pass it along, because that other person has more time and they really want to be involved, they might do a better job than you. And that's also okay. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really important recognizing when it is time to share the workload, and to know, what are you really, really good at? What do you enjoy doing the most? And put your energy into that. But also make sure you're there for your staff to guide them and support them along the way. So if they need help, they can come to you. You need to train them. So whatever it may be. I have another teacher who's also our company coordinator, and I've trained her for about a year now or so. And now she's like able to take the reins on her own, which is incredible. So I think you have to really invest the time into your people. That's so important. And your studio culture is everything. What your beliefs are are going to expand throughout your school. People are going to recognize it. Another thing I want to just bring up is we have a lot of like preteens and teens who are in our apprentice program. So we are training them to become like future leaders, and they're mentors to our younger students. It comes from the top. You can make it what you want to be, but also recognize along the way that it does take a village. You do need help. And if you give your teachers and your staff the correct tools and you guide them, you support them, you train them, they will succeed. And you have to just be okay, again, to delegate and to let go for the success of your business. And also to have some personal time with family, and just taking care of yourself is really important too, because it is easy to get burned out in this industry. It's very, very easy because we do think we can do everything, but it's not sustainable. So it's just recognizing when it's time to start giving some tasks to others.
Yeah, that is such a great way to wrap this up. Just knowing when it's time to share the load, and it's not sustainable. It just isn't. And that's okay. And it's made that way so that we can evolve. We are different people. You're different, Stephanie, probably when you opened it right after college that you are now. And along the way, we are not only training dancers, we're training teachers. And as you said about the curriculum, they're learning too. So when they're learning the curriculum, it's not just learning what to give the 3-year-old. They're actually learning what the structure of the class should be or what it can be, and then they can focus on delivery. So our impact goes past the students and it goes into the maybe young teachers that we are leading. And then that then expands our legacy and impact. That's very valuable. Stephanie, thank you so much today for sharing your story and insight with us. I know it's a very busy time and you took your time out of your busy schedule. But before we wrap up, where can our listeners find more about Duval Dance and Music Academy online or on social media?
So on social, Instagram and Facebook, we're at Duval Dance and Music, and our website is duvaldanceandmusic.com.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
So great connecting with you. We hope to see you again soon.